It is a well-known fact that nitrate in the soil is good for plant growth and prosperity. In an article published by Texas A&M AgriLife Research and Extension Center at Overton, in order to keep nitrate at optimal levels, there are plants such as clover that have a mutualistic symbiotic relationship with nitrogen-fixing bacteria. The nitrogen-fixing bacteria help facilitate the production of nitrate from atmospheric nitrogen. The nitrate produced is then used by other plants after the nitrogen-fixing plant dies for growth. Our question is, how do nitrate concentrations in the soil affect growth rate of nitrogen-fixing plants like clover? We hypothesized that when the soil has a high concentration of nitrogen, the germination and growth of Trifolium repens, also known as white clover, is very low, but when the soil has a low concentration of nitrogen, the germination and growth of white clover is high. For our experiment, we set up 15 pots of soil for each category of nitrogen concentration. In each pot, 35 seeds of white clover were added. The first set of pots were just filled with only topsoil to represent a low concentration of nitrogen. The second set of pots were filled with topsoil and a gram of fertilizer containing 10% nitrogen to represent a moderate concentration of nitrogen. The last set of pots were filled with topsoil and a gram of fertilizer containing 32% nitrogen to represent a high concentration of nitrogen. These sets of pots were set up in the greenhouse and watered every other day. Also, the amount of seedlings in each pot were counted every other day. When following the graph showing the average amount of seedlings per pot, that low nitrogen plant growth increased very rapidly in the first 11 days, going from an average of 0 plants per pot to an average of about 26 plants per pot, and then mostly leveling off at the average of approximately 27 plants per pot. The medium nitrogen plant growth increased slowly for the first 11 days, going from an average of 0 plants per pot to an average of about 21 plants per pot, then slightly decreasing and leveling off at the average of approximately 20 plants per pot. The high nitrogen plant growth increased quickly from the first 5 days, going from an average of 0 plants per pot to an average of 9 plants per pot, but then decreased to an average of approximately 2 plants per pot. Our hypothesis was supported because the high nitrogen soil yielded low amount of white clover growth, while the low nitrogen soil yielded high amount of white clover growth. This is significant when it comes to soil fertility. According to Professor John Jennings at the University of Arkansas, nitrogen-fixing plants can reduce or eliminate the need for fertilizers in fields that have large amounts of clover. This means that planting fields with nitrogen-fixing plants and reducing the amount of fertilizer used will decrease the amount of harmful fertilizer runoff that occurs. Our results for the higher concentrations of nitrate did not correlate with other studies. A 2003 study entitled Morphological Compatibility of White Clover and Perennial Ryegrass Cultivars Grown Under 2 Nitrate Levels in Flowering Solution Culture stated that high nitrate concentrations were found to have a positive effect on clover growth, whereas ours had a negative effect. We speculate that this was due to too much fertilizer placed into the pots for the amount of soil used. This caused the fertilizer to crystallize, which inhibited the clover's water intake, thereby stunting growth.